Okay, are you familiar with the permit process? Because what I'm telling you is in order to stand here, you guys need a permit. Have any of you filled out a permit today?
We don't need to fill out a permit on public property.
Okay, well, right now where you're standing, it seems like you guys are blocking, the flow of traffic here a little bit. So I think, you guys, you don't need the permit for today, but if you could just stand like down that side, on the corner there, I think that would be a better place for you.
Okay.
Would you guys just mind?
Yeah, Mary Ann would do that.
Thank you for letting us protest.
You guys are fine with this, because the sewer, they don't want you guys standing over there. But next time, you're probably going to need to get a permit. Do you have any ID on you by any chance? I need it for my notes.
I do not.
Okay, I need to get somebody's ID just so I can put it down in the
Okay, here you
report.
go.
Thank you, Miss Bessie.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, and I'm just gonna put that in the report, it's just to say. So do you guys know about how long you're gonna be here, or?
Isn't it another hour, Sam?
Okay. And are you planning to, is this just a one-time thing, or?
It's one of many.
Okay. In this same area, or? Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna be keeping an eye on you guys, so, but like I said, just if you could stay in this general area, I think this is a better location for your protest and, for the next hour that you're gonna be here. But just, don't block the traffic, don't block the sidewalk, and stay away from that entrance over there. Okay?
Okay, so that's like every Sunday. So now we're gonna do the educated protester. Corey's gonna play the
I thought it was me.
No, we're sorry, we're doing this kind of we didn't really rehearse this, so bear with us. But we need to talk about what we're doing. So we're gonna do it again. We're still protesting the circus, but this is an educated protester, and we're gonna be educated protest participants. So all I need to say to you, Sam, is just don't say anything. Because Sam's actually really new, and he really wasn't playing a part. That was really probably what he thought to do. But I was definitely playing a part. So let's start over.
Okay.
And Corey, you're gonna be the educated protester now. And I'm just going to be the bystander.
Okay.
Like, you're the organizer, and I'm just going to be the bystander that knows.
This doesn't mean I won't make mistakes. Seriously.
Hey folks, how you guys doing today?
Fine.
Good. Who's in charge here?
We're all independent activists. No one's trying.
So there's no specific group that you're with, or?
We're independent activists.
Okay. Well, I mean, one person clearly organized it. So who should I talk to? Who's the point person here?
Talk to any of us.
Okay. Can I see some ID?
No, I choose not to give you my ID.
Okay. Well, you are required to give me your identification.
I'm not.
Because, yes, right now I'm asking you for your identification.
And I choose to not give it to you.
Well, I'm going to be writing up a report. I got a call from the circus saying that you guys are actually heard that you were blocking people from going in. Is that true?
We choose not to talk to you about this issue.
Well, when I get a call saying that you're blocking people from going in and that you're harassing patrons, then I have to get involved. Now you're not giving me your ID, so you're really creating a problem here for yourself. Do you understand that?
You can stand here and observe us all you want, but we're not blocking anyone, and we choose not to talk about this issue any further with you right now.
Okay, well, I'm also going to have to ask you to move down here because you are blocking the entrance.
We are not, and we're allowed to stand right where we're standing.
You are blocking the entrance right here, so I'm asking you nicely to move.
We are not. What will happen if we don't move?
What will happen if you don't move? Well, we're going to see what's going to happen. Make a call. I'm going to have a supervisor come out here. But right now, you are being difficult is what you're doing. You're refusing to give me your identification. You are harassing patrons going in. might get a citation, but you could possibly be arrested right now as well. Okay, we're gonna, can I get some backup?
Okay, basically, I think we've played out most of like, the issues that you did. One thing is, I might have said earlier, like if this was interfering with the protest, I might have said, are we being detained? And then I might have, like if he said no, I would just walk a few steps away, like just to stop the back and forth, because you know, he'll keep talking. And Ed did a really good job, because the police will keep trying different ways, looking at us, you know, trying different, so, so did anybody have any questions about either one? Okay, we'll start with Jackie.
Should you be filming
Rachel was filming.
Howdy.
Yes, we should be filming. You're absolutely right. Definitely always be filming any interactions with police.
Okay, this is gonna be really naive, but, when you don't answer, like, you won't even give them your ID, I mean, is there any, they just take that as, first of all, I don't know why they ask those questions, if you can tell me why they ask those questions, like, why do they want your ID and all that? And then if you don't give it to them, it's like they take that as a reason to sort of escalate things. It's like they take it as a challenge, yeah. And so I'm wondering, like, if you know what you're doing is completely legal, is there any harm in giving them your ID?
Absolutely, positively, yes, and she explained why. Because if you're doing something legal, and you're not expressing your rights, you're making it that much harder for everybody. So you're training the cops that you're not going to express your rights. So your right is absolutely that you don't have to give your name or any information. In Pennsylvania, there's other states where there is a self-identify statute. And if I say anything is wrong, correct me.
Right, no, yeah, at this stage, you're completely
Yeah,
correct.
okay.
Absolutely.
So if the cop is just coming up and doing, you know, information gathering, just, you know, there's different approaches to it. I like to say a bare minimum, because a bare minimum to me gets them away from me. You know, if you just totally ignore them, sometimes that escalates, they'll just keep after you.
Right, right.
But if they know you're not going to be chosen not to answer, and choose not to answer, and tell them that, then eventually, in my experience, they walked away quickest with that. So your harm is that you've given information, you have violated the constitutional rights for yourself, you volunteered, you raised your hand, and I'm, okay, I won't express my, you know, you volunteered to do that. And you made it that much harder for the person who comes next, who doesn't want to give their name, and doesn't want to, you know, does want to have the Constitution followed. So it's a big deal. One more.
Police officer, was he instilling the idea that you were blocking the entrance, or were you in fact blocking the entrance?
Blocking the entrance is illegal, and we would never block the entrance. This is a legal protest, so it would always be whether or not. So,
But it is common for them to try to make you think that you're standing in an area that you're not supposed to, and asking you to move.
Does anybody want to try a role play with the police as practice? Because one thing that I found is it really helps to practice this. Like if you have a situation, like just try out your newly learned skills right now with Ed as police and us as protesters. Anybody up for that? Okay, great. Then you be the cop, we'll be the people that are, we're going to be educated protesters. You're going to be an educated protester on this one. Okay, so you're going to try to do the right stuff. Okay, right, we are too.
Does that make sense?
So are we just doing the exact same?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Can I just say too, on one of the points that was made or asked, sometimes like, if we're not sure about something and we want to push the envelope, we'll do it and let them say something to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's healthy. So like, I mean, earlier I asked about blocking the entrance. This has been an issue with me a couple times. So like, I'll go and do it, but I'll let them say something to me. But in the meantime, I've been an activist standing in that spot for 21 minutes, and people have seen me there, like, my presence. And then when I'm spoken to, and I know that I'm wrong, I'll walk away.
We've done that a couple of times, like you're standing by the side of the road and you're like a little bit iffy as to whether or not it's just like not black and white, it's
Right.
kind of gray.
So we take
So we
chances.
take the chance, but we're not, it's definitely, it's not like we're doing something knowingly illegal, but it's just like pushing the boundary a little bit. But as soon as somebody tells us to move in, we do. Like, it's like, okay. Because we're not sure, like, it's like one of those things where you basically.
I know when we did the circus in Reading, the cops that originally showed up had no idea what they were talking about. They kept telling us that the public sidewalk belonged to the arena.
That's what we should do. We should
I was
create
gonna
a private
switch it
property.
up, yeah,
we're
because
gonna-
they
we'll do
were
that,
trying
we'll do
to-
this role
Okay.
play. And then one quick,
Do you want to be?
Our experience has typically been that the lower rank officers may not fully have the whole idea. So what we typically do when we do something dramatic is we will kind of comply but ask for a supervisor,
okay.
which is going to show up quickly anyway. And unless they've got 3 stripes on their arm or something decorated up on their collar, kind of comply a little bit, 2 feet, and then we'll go back to doing it until somebody very high up tells us we can.
That's actually not what I would recommend. I never give in an inch. But let's get to the next role play.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
When you're being spoken to by police and you're the one that they're speaking to and you're kind of the main person, is it good to speak on everyone's behalf? Like if you're saying, we choose to remain silent, or should you just focus on yourself?
Okay.
I
That's a
choose to
real
remain silent.
basic question, and it's absolutely, positively, never speak for anybody but
Okay,
yourself.
so-
Always just be your independent activist, and so on. All right. Okay. So we'll go. One more.
Hi, how you guys doing today? I got a complaint that you are harassing some of the patrons that are trying to enter the circus here. Who's in charge?
We
What
are
organization are you
independent.
with?
We're not an organization, we're just grassroots activists.
Okay, but you're not with any organization or group?
No.
There's not one of you put this together. You all just happen to show up at the same time randomly, right? Okay, well, I find that a little hard to believe. You do know that where you're standing right now, in the city, you do need a permit on this area of the block here. We do require a permit. You have to fill that out 30 days in advance. Did any of you fill out this permit that you need?
I'm being arrested or detained.
No, not right now. You're not. I'm asking you if you have the permit. It's
I wish
required.
I remained silent.
Okay, well, I'm letting you guys know that we do require a permit. And since nobody has filled out the permit, you are at risk of being cited right now. I'm gonna help you guys out. What I can do is I actually have some permits in the car, but I need one of you to put your name on it, fill it out for you, and I'll let you guys can sign it now. You can stay right here. But I just need you to move over a little bit too, because right now you're blocking.
I wish to remain silent.
Okay, I'm gonna need to see some ID then. Just, do you have your ID with you?
I am not going to give you my ID.
Okay, do you have your ID on you, or
I
you're
wish
just
to
not gonna
remain
give it to me,
silent.
okay? All right, well, I think I'm gonna go call civil affairs, have them come out, because right now where you're standing, this is not public access. You do need to have a permit here, and since you won't comply with what I'm asking you to do, I'm gonna have to call civil affairs, and they'll come and tell you the same thing, so.
Okay, good. Well, that's another example. One thing I'm gonna add, and if there's anything to add, that you have to add, is they'll say like it's private property, and this is just like, this was like just a role play, so whatever situation came up, but that would be something, you can have the same permit, it'd be like also, well, if this is private property and you're gonna have to leave. Well, as an activist, it's really important to research this beforehand and know where you have the right to stand. So you should always be standing in something that's public access. It might be, they might call it private property, but there's different varying rules for this, like depending if it's a shoulder or whatever. But as an activist, you absolutely need to find out, and you need to know that. So when the officer comes up and says that, you know that you're on public access, and if you choose to say, I researched it, I'm on public access, I'm here, then that's great. And if they keep pushing it, What I suggest you do is do what was done earlier, is what will happen if I don't move. And then if the officer says, like you went on rambling, like, which is what officers do a lot. But if they say, well, you're gonna be arrested and cited for this, you've had your videotape rolling, so you've got that on videotape, you don't need to get arrested. Like, don't get arrested, please don't. Like, I've been arrested, it's horrible, you don't want it. I didn't try to get arrested, I thought I was doing something totally legal, so get it to that point and then deal with it later. Like, file a complaint or do whatever, but don't get arrested. It doesn't help anything, in my opinion, and you can avoid it and you can still get your rights. But once they've threatened arrest, when what the ACLU has told me, Mary Catherine, is like that's like the same as getting arrested when it comes to pursuing it later. Like, it's not any better deal to actually go through the hassle of arrest and everything. So, we're not
We're making the presumption that he's telling the truth about a permit first.
What?
No.
Do
Exactly
you
right.
see this training?
Exactly right. So he's making that, he's instilling that or projecting that upon you like you're on violation.
Absolutely.
Are you blocking anything again? You're not.
No. Do you need a permit? No.
So is it better to remain silent, or should you say, I've already looked up that this is completely public and we are allowed to be here? Or should you just keep this silent?
I was just gonna say, that particular performance, and maybe mine too, it's hard for me to assess my performance because you know on me. But oftentimes what happens in these situations, and it tends to be you, because you're an expert on this issue, you take initiative to do it. I've seen you do it, I've seen you do it, I've done it a couple times, is we step forward and we say, we know we can be here. Not only do we say those words, but we say it in a way that tends to convince police, I've seen. And there's been some exceptions, of course. But most of the time, the police are convinced, not just by what we say, but the way we say it. When we say, we know we can be here, we're on public property. And the minute they're like, in their heads, they're thinking, oh, okay, these people actually know a thing or two about their rights. I'm gonna be up against something if I wanna keep this going. Oftentimes, we do step down. I mean, that Whole Foods protest outside of South Street, Whole Foods, when that guy was like, no, you can't be here, and you're like, you're fine. And you're like, no, they can be here. That cop was like, threw his hands up and walked away. But
that comes down to knowing.
so it's like, but
no.
these performance, I don't know if I pulled it off, but like one of the things that happens is we take the initiative to really say it like we mean it, like we know we can be here.
Right.
And like look at me, like we know we can be here.
They
And
sometimes
if they want to follow up and create more of a hassle, then whatever, they call the supervisor to civil affairs. But that's one thing that you do that maybe I didn't pull off, and I don't think you did in that interaction.
Mary Ann just said, don't get yourself arrested. That's why I asked those two questions. He's saying one thing, you're saying don't get yourself arrested. So what do you mean by that? Move 2 feet?
What are you saying? No, I'm saying, get him to the point of saying,
If he threatens.
what you're saying is, let's do one real quick. Like, let's just do it really quick.
Okay.
So just tell me to move.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask you to move over here.
Officer, what will happen if I don't move?
If you don't move right now, you're risking possibly being arrested or cited.
Okay, I have my videotape rolling, and so and then I will ask, then this is a good thing to know. Okay, officer, I'm not refusing to comply with your order, but will you please explain to me what basis you have for asking me to move?
Well, if you would come down to the mini station, I would.
Okay, I'm moving. So you move at that point. Like, once they've threatened arrest, the magic question is, what will happen if I don't do X, Y, Z? And if they say you will get arrested, then do X, Y, Z.
Even if you're on public
Even if you're obeying the law, even if everything, because they're going to arrest you. Like they've said it. I mean, if they're threatening arrest, they usually have to follow through with it. They don't threaten arrest usually. Nothing's 100%. There's some gray areas always. But so then I move, and then I have it on video, and I call the ACLU, talk to Mary Catherine, can you help me? But normally that never happens. Like they never threaten arrest. When I've been arrested, it's been like they swooped in and arrested me, and I didn't really have a chance to do it. So that's an unusual
If the
circumstance.
words come up, then
I've had it happen once.
Yeah.
I said, what will happen if I don't move? And the cop said, you'll be arrested. And I said, okay. But I had it all on tape, and then I
Yeah, so
moved,
then you
and then
can
addressed
move.
it later.
You don't want my point is that once you've done that, like you don't need to get arrested. It doesn't help anything. It's just putting stress, and you're spending time and energy on that. But normally people that I know get arrested, including myself, didn't have that chance, like, or didn't ask the question. and they just swooped in, but usually I've had cops say, oh, we're gonna do that, are we? You know, like they know, like when I say, what will happen if I don't move? Because those are, like they were saying magic words, those are some magic words. So.
How do you find out where public property actually is? So for
Okay.
example, like say you want to leaf put outside 30th Street Station, is it the sidewalk, yes, the parking all the way outside?
Well, pretty
or-
much, a rule of thumb is if it's anywhere the public is allowed to go, you are allowed to go. So if it's not being restricted by fenced and gated, or a ticket, or something like that, the public's just free, if they can walk their dog or do whatever, then you're allowed to go there. There's some exceptions to that. I always research it to make sure, and there's some funky things like Independence National Park is considered federal property, so they had like federal laws that I learned about when I was protesting horse-drawn carriages. So it was a public sidewalk on 6th Street, but it was considered part of this Independence National Park, and they had this thing called a compendium that had all these rules and regulations in it. One of them was that you had to have a permit if you were one person. So it was totally unconstitutional. The ACLU helped us fight it, and now that's no longer required. So, but the general rule is that the public is allowed to go there, and we encounter this all the time at Universal, where it's Fairmount Park. They're not restricting anybody. This year they put up some arbitrary police tape, but they're keeping the public, like everybody else, out, so we don't have the right to go in there. But everywhere the public's allowed to go, we are allowed to go. Is that pretty accurate? Okay.
Well, so we think. I mean, that middle lawn, I got one about this name,
What middle lawn?
like the grass.
Well, that's because they put that stupid police tape around. They're not letting any of the public go there.
Right, does that mean we can't go there?
It means we're part of the public, so we can't go there.
Right, but like, so they could put a tape anywhere, as you were saying.
I know, and I want to talk to the ACLU about that. But for now, because they're restricting the whole public from it, we are part of the public, and we don't go in there either. So, but I do want to, when they're gone, I want to follow up on that, because I'm afraid next year they're going to fence in the entire Fairmount Park and say, you can't go, anywhere, so. We are almost out of time. I want to do more role plays, but is there anything like burning question or?
There is, you and I have spoken about this, and I don't know if anyone else, I think you're a nurse, aren't you, Erin? Anybody credentialed in medicine or involved in any professional credentialing besides being an attorney? One of the things that I've encountered now doing my medical studies is they said if you get arrested, now it could be conviction or not, you and I talked about that, you will be thrown out of school. You will lose everything, everything that you've earned, all your credentialing, etc. Is that constitutional? Especially in a public university.
A lot of universities have conduct codes that you sign on.
Wait a minute, let me back up. That's actually a state mandate, because I was going to get my nursing license, my nursing degree on the way to becoming a physician. So they said that was at the nursing level. And it was by the association, not by a state, well, that's a state regulatory authority. Is it a bureau? I'm not sure. So is that allowed? So the school says we have to go by what the nursing association says. Am I on point with this? Are you a nurse?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were.
Yeah, so.
I'd love to challenge.
It depends on if it's the school saying that, or if it's the licensing body that says that. I'm not sure.
I think it's a licensing body.
Okay.
And normally the licensing bodies, it's only if you are charged with misconduct in providing the service that you're licensed for, if
This
you're
is
a
just in
doctor.
the training.
Yeah.
This isn't
No,
even
so
like
I
being
think-
forced into
But in New
vaccine.
Jersey,
That's a
it's
whole
not
other issue.
accurate. I'm a licensed therapist.
Okay.
And when I renew my license, I have to mark down whether I've ever been arrested or convicted.
I did do that as a financial advisor too. I couldn't do securities or anything else if I was.
And I know others of them arrested for a non-felonious offense, and they went through a real big hassle because of licensing. And they come in, they investigate, say your license suspended for a certain amount of time, etc.
And that's even if you're arrested and not convicted?
Any
Yeah,
other
because they ask two
questions?
separate questions.
Katay, and
What's the best way to get a lawyer if you do get arrested?
what?
What's the best way to get a lawyer if you do get arrested?
Have someone lined up ahead of time.
Arrested?
Competent.
Well, I mean, we've been very fortunate in that the ACLU has helped us out a lot in situations. But like when I say we, I mean me and Ed, because me and Ed have been arrested and the ACLU has represented us pro bono. But it's always been in situations where it was First Amendment related and it was like covering a broader issue. So it depends on what you're being arrested for. I don't think that's something you can count on. And if you want to find a lawyer, I think like Kelly, I don't know what Kelly is. Okay, yeah, it's not as it's not as simple as you would think. Like I recommended someone and she followed up with that. I can recommend who was when I was arrested 10 years ago in front of Universal Circus for standing on a public sidewalk, I hired a private criminal attorney and I paid $2,000 for my defense because I couldn't find anybody to do it pro bono. So that's basically what your worst case scenario is, and I have recommendations and other people do too.
Yeah, I was personally pretty disappointed in the lack of tools available for someone that was in my position with my arrest. And I was lucky enough to know Marianne and have her counsel with that, because otherwise I could be facing a whole other set of charges. I could already be in jail, but at the same time, I have this great lawyer. Really fucking expensive though.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to be paying the price of thousands of dollars, and I feel like as activists we need to have more lawyers that are ready to represent us without charging thousands of dollars, because what we're doing is great.
That has to be a specialist. In any business, you get people that specialize in doing that. Do we have them?
We have lots of specialists, they're very expensive. Yeah.
That's a big issue, isn't it? I mean, I haven't heard that mentioned. If you're gonna put yourself out there and you want legal help, lawyers come, they're very expensive. And so you have to be ready for that. We really do. You have to be ready, unless you want to spend some time in the.
I know that for my situation, I was not expecting to be arrested at all. I was just expecting to maybe be taken out of the facility. So I didn't really like just jump into an arrest situation. It just happened to me, and I think that's probably pretty common with arrests made with activists. And
Especially since they can arrest you, falsely arrest you. Sounds like it happens a lot.
But it's like we're all in this together, so we all have to kind of have each other's backs. And I would like to work on some kind of information or list of lawyers that are more easily and readily available for arrests when you're speaking out against animal abuse.
So is it a good idea, with the expectation that I know that I might be in the situation to go start researching, reserve a lawyer? No, start researching and finding out. I mean, can you find out from like what ifs and prices?
I think that arresting is such a rare situation, and what, you know, like they said in the video, is if you comply with what the officers are saying, most of the time you're not getting arrested. It's only when it's someone kind of like me or Ed that's pushing the boundaries, you know, like asking questions and like blah blah blah. Like if you're concerned about getting arrested, just do what police say. You know,
Well, I rely on like you. I rely on the other people.
Yeah,
I'm
and
sort of like
that's
the follower.
okay. But if you ever want to do your own organizing, that's more when you really need to get your rights down and whatever. But if you're just coming to like one of my protests or one of Ed's or whatever, just follow what he's doing, and he might challenge the police, but you can just go across and do whatever.
That's pretty much what I do right now.
Yeah, if you're really concerned about that, I don't think. I mean, there was one situation, Trenton, New Jersey, for railing is like, I don't even want to get into it. I was going to play a video, but I was talking to Corey about it, and it's like, this is like graduate level activism. It would be too much even. So I'm not saying it never happens, but it's almost never happens, where if the police come over and they're like, you know, you're not allowed to be here, then just go and let the organizer deal with it, and then you won't be even risking arrest. So like Kelly was on her own kind of and did it. It wasn't like, he didn't threaten, he just arrested.
Yeah, no,
So that's like, I think that's an unusual situation
Yeah,
too. I
yeah.
don't think that's as common.
I think that was just scare tactics and trying
Yeah.
to make an example, but it was
Yeah.
total like BS.
So when you show up to like some of our first, we're gonna get arrested. We've
That's
rolled,
like civil disobedience.
well, we've rolled the car over in the logging road. We've got
Yeah.
3 people in the trees. We set up a legal defense fund and pre-set up those. So any kind of stuff where you're risking arrest and not in a very minor way, but you know that there's a strong possibility, there's frameworks to that that are definitely available, that are being researched, and are researched by the people who are constantly.
Well, the few times I've been threatened with arrest, I've been doing something completely legal. And then now they're saying that, well, if they threaten to arrest you, you should just stop doing it.
They didn't threaten to arrest you though, I don't think.
Yeah, they did.
Did you have it in
3
video?
times. No, I didn't.
Okay.
Well,
And
one
to
time.
me, that doesn't count. You have to be videotaping. If you don't have it on video, to me, it didn't happen. You can't fight it then. Like, then it's your word against their
I know,
word.
but even if you're filming it, that you're saying that the only way to avoid it, you should stop doing whatever.
Yes, I am saying that on video, like police act differently when they're on video. They act totally differently. So if you get it on video, that you're standing on a public sidewalk in front of Whole Foods and the officer says, and you say, what will happen, officer, I'm not refusing to comply, but what will happen if I don't move? And then he says, I'm gonna arrest you. And then you can say, okay, I'll comply, but can you explain to me why you're doing this? Get that all on video, and then we fight it. Because if you're gonna get arrested, the fact that they threatened to arrest and you just moved really just enforces their bad behavior. Like nothing was accomplished by that. You gave up your First Amendment right, you gave it up without following through on it. And Corey had an example where that happened with the electric factory outlet, right?
The electric company, right?
Yeah, where he was
So
just cycling.
this is when I first moved to Philadelphia several years ago. I was leafleting with somebody, Deacon Star guys at the electric factory. I was on a public sidewalk, and I wasn't the organizer of the event, someone else was. And 2 security guards from the electric factory came out and told me I could not leaflet on the public sidewalk. And I said, yes, I can. And I just kept leafleting. And I turned around, and the organizer called me over. And I said, what's up? And she goes, we're just going to move down here. She'd already consented to just basically move out of the way. It's the last time I worked with her.
So that's willingly giving up your rights.
Yeah.
Without and the security guards, I usually don't talk to them. I'm like, you know, it's like, I'd like to be here, you know, that's the most I'll ever say. And then they'll call the police, and then I got on my video camera. I just don't even bother, you know, security guards are so, they have no clue. But I get on my video camera, start videotaping, and I don't think I've ever had it where they've threatened to arrest, because they just back down then, like when I have the videotape.
But when you were arrested, I mean, they didn't even threaten, they just arrested you, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying, like, that's like graduate level activism, because they were targeting me. Like, that wasn't, and for my very first arrest at Universal Circus in 2005, I didn't even videotape it. I was so clueless. It's a miracle I was found not guilty, because it was my word against the cops, and the judge happened to believe me. I don't believe me, that never happens. So, that was my learning experience where and they did tell me I would be arrested. But I was like, well, if I'm doing something illegal, arrest me. And they did. I mean, it was like, you know, but the other ones, my other arrests were all in Trenton with these crazy sheriffs that were targeting me. And that's why I'm saying not even covering that, because but all my other ones where I was, you know, like videotaping, when I said, like, what will happen if I don't move? They never said you'll be arrested. They always said, well, like what he was rambling on about, like, oh, we're gonna have a problem then, or, you know, I'm gonna have to talk to my supervisor or whatever. They don't threaten arrest because they know they can't, like if you're doing something legal. But if you don't have it on video, they'll say anything. They'll probably threaten you with arrest. And because they know, they go to, if anything happens, they'll just say, oh, I never said that. And it's illegal to videotape, or I'm sorry, not videotape, it's illegal to do it undercover. Like if you have to be openly doing it, am I right? Yeah, you have to so they have to know. So if you're not openly doing it, then they are just say whatever they want. And if you do have a hidden, you know, that's a wiretap law violation, and you're in trouble then. So you gotta have a camera, gotta know the magic words, what will happen if I don't do X, Y, Z? And then if they tell you you're gonna be arrested, then say, okay, I'm gonna put the one view, but please, can you explain what basis it is? You know, like that, because you want more information. So you can go find it.
Tell us that.
No, I just want to say, because this has come up a lot, especially with you over there. A lot of people think that when you are strong in your rights and speaking your rights, that that's disrespectful or rude to the cops. That is so inaccurate. Like, that is you being strong in your rights, and other people need to see that, because we all need to be strong in our rights. And when you have a cell phone and you were filming the cop, that's not rude or disrespectful in any way. That's protecting yourself, and that's really, really important. And I know a lot of people see that or have made comments
I think it's
about
rude, or, oh, well,
you're
you just inflating the
disrespectful to the cop,
situation.
and that's not the case at all.
Yeah. Do we have one more?
Oh, I was just going to ask, well, say that I think a pretty typical situation is what happened when we were protesting the circus in Reading, and the security guards come up we're on public sidewalk. The security guards come up first and tell us that we're on private property and we have to leave. And we said, no, we're on public property, and then just ignored them. And then